I think I've definitely had a bit of a lull, I've got a bit of an ear problem at the moment as well. It's like
Oh,
really painful. Started over the weekend and that. Um, and this is how I know my medication's working is because on Monday morning I gave Jack a hug goodbye before he went to school, and I leant my head against his, and it was like somebody drove a nail straight through, and I was like, you know,
wow.
and whereas pre-medication, I'd have gone, all right, anyway, let's look at. I was, I
Yeah.
actually went right. I'm on the on Google. It's like right NHS app. Right, it says I'll go and speak to the pharmacist. So I was straight down the farm after dropped my door up. I went straight down the pharmacist, went in there, and I approached them, which again is something I would never have done. I would have just suffered. I would have let it carry on until it was like absolutely intolerable, and probably a visit down A&E. Um,
Yeah.
but no, I went down there, spoke to the pharmacist, who was really unhelpful, who was like, no, so no, only, I'll only look at, children aged 1 to 17. And I literally, before I even had a chance to stop myself, went, oh, because adults don't get ear infections. And it was like, gave me that serious, I'm a medical professional look. Um, And
That's
the woman who
crazy.
was working on the counter said, "Oh, you'll have to go and make an appointment with your GP." And I was like, "Well, fine, I'll do that then." I was I was proper stroppy, and I am one of the most polite people you'll meet when I'm work. Whenever I have
Yeah.
interactions, particularly people who work in like a retail environment or whether it be restaurants.
Yeah.
I'm always super friendly with like waiters, shop work, stuff like that. Because I know, having been in those similar roles, how shit they get treated, and they get paid bugger all
Yeah.
uh, for the
Yeah.
privilege of
For the
doing it.
privilege.
So I'm always
Yeah.
really conscious of that. And I am obviously diverging, distracted it. Um, but we went to Nando's for lunch, and there was
Yeah.
this young guy in there who was working there, and he was clearly on the spectrum, and his part of his role was to go around the tables and say, and he obviously has a script that he works to. So I've been watching him as he was going to the tables around us. And he sort of go up to the table, and I'm just going to say, I'm very sorry to interrupt you. But I just want to check if everything's okay. If there's anything that I can get for you, and and that kind of thing. And all the other and this pisses me off so much because all the other tables that I saw him go to, they'd all there'd be an eye roll and a sort of like they'd look at each other, give them that look like sort of thing. It's like, oh, he's special. And it really fucks me off. Really fucks me off because he was a really, really pleasant young guy. And anyway, he came over
Yeah.
to our table and asked us, if everything was okay, and asked us if we'd had a nice Christmas. And I was like, oh no, everything's really lovely, thank you. And I was like, and I hope you had a nice Christmas too. And there's this sudden moment on his face of recognition of, oh, someone's actually, oh, nobody's. It's like nobody had done that to him. And he was like,
Yeah.
yeah. And he
Nobody
said, oh,
noticed.
actually, yes, I had a really nice Christmas, thank you. And
Oh.
I'm glad you did too. And so I carried on, and it was a lovely, really lovely interaction. But you could just immediately see that this interaction wasn't something that happened to him on a regular basis. And
Yeah.
it really kind of hit me of how hard it is for people who are neurodivergent, particularly those who are
Yeah.
perhaps more impacted further down the scale or more along the scale than I am, about how hard it is to do what other people just think is just an easy, piss, piss easy sort of thing
Yeah.
to do, or a menial task, or whatever. and how easy people look down on them or overlook them, or and yeah, so that yeah, so I'm really cautious. I'm not cautious, but I'm very aware, and it's that thing of like I will treat people how I wish to be treated. So when I was in this pharmacist, and I was like genuinely proper stroppy, not like some belligerent people, but it was just like oh, for fuck's sake, I've come to you for help, and this is what even the websites say, go and speak to the pharmacist first. Anyway, so I left, and where my doctor's is, or where that pharmacist is, it's in my doctor's surgery. So I went. What I normally would have done was I'd have left, gone home, and then tried to ring the doctors, which we all know is just like, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's I've got more chance of going to the Oscars with Kate Winslet than getting through to the surgery. So anyway, I went up there, and I spoke to the receptionist, and I said, oh yeah, I've got an ear problem, and I'd like to make an appointment, please, thinking, oh, it's going to be sometime later in the week if I'm lucky. And she goes, oh, you do know that you can speak to the pharmacist about that? And I went, no, because believe it or not, I am over the age of 17, so they won't look at me. And she went, oh, well, yeah, of course, because we all know that, if you're over 17, you don't get ear infections. And she was lovely. She was brilliant. And she goes, I'll have a look and see what we get. And they fitted me in. They have like an on-site paramedic. And she got me an appointment with him for 12 o'clock. And it was like, and I was like, oh, do you know, thank you so much. And but it was, but again, it was just the difference in interactions of, I had an expectation that the pharmacist would at least see me or speak to me, and it was just so dismissive. And then I had the perception that if I went to the receptionist, I wouldn't be able to get an appointment, but she was really helpful. Yeah. And it was just like, and like, of course, my reaction changed completely as a result of the way she was being with me. Point being is how being on medication changes the way you approach things, the way that you suddenly, and it does feel suddenly able to do something that previously felt like a massive hurdle. Like even just walking down and going, I'm going to speak to a pharmacist. I've never spoken to I don't think I've ever spoken to a pharmacist in my life about anything. It's like, oh, well, I'll just be a terrible inconvenience to them. And, oh, well, I'm sure it will get better in time. And you just find all these excuses not to, and then, or ordinarily just procrastinate. Terrible, terrible procrastination. Yeah. But then obviously with the medication, it's like, okay, well, that's not right. So I need to do something about it. I'll do something about it. I've done something about it. Holy shit. But it's another one of those, it's like sort of refer to it as like a tax on the neurodivergence, because it's all those things where we put off because our brains, for whatever reason, put up these roadblocks and don't allow you to do things, or it's not, I don't know, it doesn't produce enough dopamine to make you want to do stuff. And how that can impact you through your life. And you imagine, like, with health conditions, neurodivergent people, I've got no evidence to back this up, incidentally. It's all anecdotal. But how often you put things off. And I know from jobs and things where I've worked in the medical industry that I've seen enough cases where I've read enough cases where people have delayed seeking treatment, and then it makes treating it so much harder, or worst case scenario, it's too late. And, and I would be pretty confident in saying that, neurodivergent people, if they ever did research into at what point neurodivergent people seek medical intervention, I wouldn't be surprised at all if there was a high number of neurodivergent people who end up with critical care or something because they've left it too late. and it's the same thing. It's not the same thing in terms of outcomes, but there's financial taxes on us. Those subscriptions that we forget to cancel. I've completely forgot about that one. And how many times it's like, oh, more money's gone out my account. Oh, must cancel that. Don't cancel it. And then 6 months later, you might eventually get around to do it, or whether it's savings or all the. But there's so many things that impact people with ADHD that it ends up costing us. And I don't think there seems to be there's not much focus on it, but there doesn't seem to be anyway. It's all about you go on all the socials and it's all about ADHD is my superpower, or I must do this, or look, squirrel, or all kind of like making, and a lot of it makes light of it. Or it's people who are severely impacted by ADHD. And I think there's a lot of people that kind of fall in that middle ground where ADHD does impact in many ways, but in some ways it's less noticeable because it's not so evident. And I'm sure it's all these people, and I put myself in there. It's like you get that, you end up kind of missed because it's just like, well, it's, and that was, oh God, it's not going to be me talking all morning, is it, Angela? No, I'm going to stop.